Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network 105.
Operators are standing by.
Welcome to Chasing Prophecy Radio, where we discuss the unidentified, the unexplainable, paranormal, conspiracies, and much more. Starring your host and co-host, Jenny Nicasio, Sean Kelly, and Jason Sledgehammer and Petro. Brought to you by UPRN Network. Now for your host, Jenny Nicasio.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Sean Kelly, and I am hosting tonight on Chasing Prophecy on 105.3 New Orleans. And Jenny's off tonight, and so is Jason, and so is John. So it's just me. So, people are starting to get busy now. Look at that freak over here to the right or left of me. That's my that's my guest tonight. So I'll get to him later. But it's going to be a fun night. You're going to learn a lot of things about UFOs, aliens, the RH factor, whatever Joe can come up with. But so how was everybody's week? Mine was okay. The weather's pretty crappy here in Pittsburgh, but too hot, too dang hot. But I know it's not as hot as it is down in New Orleans. So I had a family reunion this past Saturday, and I was talking with my little cousin, and we had a great conversation. In fact, it was through the whole party, and he's young, and hey, Kaz, how are you? And we talked about UFOs, and we talked about aliens, and he asked some pretty crazy questions, and I sent him the link to the show, so he can sit and watch. I know he can make some comments, but I'd like, to get some answers from Joe. He's creeping me out. But so that's what we're going to talk about, aliens, UFOs, and anything other crazy, So without ado, I'd like to introduce my guest tonight, Joe Montaldo from UPRN Radio 105.3, the man, the UFO expert, the UFO alien entrepreneur, or whatever you want to call it. He knows his stuff. So good evening, Joe. How are we today?
What's up, man? Oh, wait, we're back to normal people again. I love these stupid things, guys. I can't help those overlays. And when you don't have a green screen behind you, they get all quirky and stuff. Hey, Sean, how you doing, man? Life's good. Things treating you all right. How's it up there in Pittsburgh? Y'all get ready to be on the flip side of getting cold again, huh? What you got, 2 months?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm starting late September, early October. We're just going to start seeing the leaves change. But you know what? For the longest time, it just seems like the way the Earth is rotating, Joe, that I think it's going to be like 90 degrees in November, December, and January, okay? And it's going to be fall, February, March, April, and then it's going to be snow in June, July, August. What do you think?
I don't know. We've been talking about climate change, global warming, whatever you want to call it. There seems to be some oddities. Like for us, it's gotten cooler. And it's weird for us because we know if we have a really hot August, the end's going to be like a torturous hurricane season, like from the 15th to the 15th of September. If it gets really, really hot, where we got an Indian summer running, oh man, it'll get to be a torturous hurricane season. But for us, it's actually changed. Our weather's been cooler since I've moved here, which is on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. It snowed 4 times in 8 years. And now, people, don't get the wrong idea. This is not Pittsburgh. This is Mississippi Gulf Coast. Okay. Now, when we say snow, we mean,
not like ours, like this.
Now, I did. There is a posting on one of my Facebook pages on the house I'm living in now. We had icicles. You can't see it about this long, so if I like that,
icicles.
Yeah, 18 inches, 20 inches long. About 2 inches around. Other than that, but that's because I had a metal roof on the house.
Right.
It was catching all the condensation. But I mean, we get a little, and then we get some what people want to call snow. That's really little ice particles, but we'll call it snow for the
Oh,
shits
they
and
call
giggles
it
of it.
hell. But you
Now,
know what? Speaking of bicycles, Joe, there's a friend of mine in my family's that he just walked out my uncle's door and he got hit in the head with one of them suckers, and he wasn't right ever since. I mean,
well,
he
look, I
couldn't
mean,
work.
they are
I mean,
dangerous.
they're dangerous as all hell.
I seen a TikTok video the other day, and a guy parked his van on the side of the building. All ice came up, and crushed the van. I was like, big old hunks of chicken, 8-inch, 10-inch chunks of ice, 5 by 10 wide come off of it. I was thinking, damn, that's rough. What can you do though? We live where we live. I ask my friends all the time, why the hell you live up north? They're like, why the hell you live down south? It's just one of them things.
Well, I know for a fact if I happen to move down to Mississippi, New Orleans, down around that way, I'm telling you what, I'd probably die. I wouldn't die, but the humidity would just destroy me because
Well,
my body's so used to the cold.
yeah, well, you get used to it, but there is some big advantages to living in the deep south. The
What's
men
that?
and the women look younger than they are, like
Really?
quite a bit. Yeah, moisture keeps your skin from wrinkling and stuff.
I didn't
Thinking I'm
know that.
60, baby. That's almost smooth up here. You don't see that. You live up north, that shit's like crusted lines across it. You go out west, take like inch gaps up in that shit. So, I give my friends, because my friends who live like in Phoenix and Nevada and New Mexico, it's rough, man, because it's there is no humidity there, so your skin just kind of like flake. I'm not kidding you. Last time I went out there, I spent about a week. I could just feel myself just flaking away every time I rubbed my arm. It was like, damn.
Where was this
Uh,
at?
I was in, I think we were in New Mexico.
New
Well, we've been
Mexico.
in New Mexico, Arizona. This year, though, well, before we get started, guys and girls, I will be in Atlanta September 1st through 5th for Dragon Con. Dun, 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 dun. Dragon Con, people, yes.
Oh, oh wow.
So, and then after that, the boss lady and I are going up to Fan Fest in Utah, which is the end of September. So, we're gonna see
Hmm.
how that goes, and I just want to hang out, meet some people,
What do you do?
see what learn what all these big festivals are about. In Atlanta, I get to visit my sister, so
That's cool.
see what's up with her, and then see what's my crazy sister up to.
Hey, why don't you come up to Pittsburgh around November, December, dude?
Well, Michael and I, we really want the girls to come, but I don't know if they can. But we have all been talking about just meeting somewhere late in the year when hotels are cheap, and just meeting somewhere around Gettysburg, and
Hmm.
just doing it. Just not. I mean, you could call it a hunt, but I'd call it more of a hangout,
Right,
catch a buzz, and see what we find, kind of thing. Because
right.
there'll be lots of drinking, so I mean, nobody's gonna be driving, so it's just well, maybe not as much drinking
I
because I don't
guess
drink
I'll
like I
be the
used to.
designated driver there, huh?
Well, I don't drink
Because
like I used to. So, well, it's funny for me because if somebody asked me one day, and this is just totally off topic, but I was young, man. I drink. We would drink. So this is what we do, guys. We drink 2/5, and then we go out. So we would shoot darts for shots. Well, that sucked for me because I was a pro. So I wasn't getting any booze out of this. So I had to throw my game off just to get some booze out of the deal. But we do that, and then we go out and drink because you remember New Orleans is a 24-hour city. So we'd go
Mhm.
out and drink till about 4 or 5 a.m. Then we'd come back to Fat City, where all the restaurants serve food early in the morning. They'd have like some would have chicken barbecue, some would have this and red beans, rice, whatever. But you could come in and it was free as long as you were drinking in the bar. So you could walk in and eat, and we'd stay there till noon. So when you walked out, I mean, it's where this came from. It's where I learned to do this because always in the clubs I'd have on top of my head because I knew when I walked out it was going to be daylight outside, and
Okay.
so we just drink all night. You get high times for it, but after my son was born, I drank less and less and less. Now I only drink particular things. Like last time I had a good one. I went out with some Australians in Los Angeles. When I was out there for Writers of the Future, the first day I was out there Friday night, Chris and I, a couple of guys went out and got blitzed. But that was only the only drinking I did the whole time I was there.
Right.
And then and that's all the drinking I've done since the year before I was there, and the year before. So I like to drink. I don't like to drink and drive. So,
Right. Me neither. Well,
but
I
here,
can't drink. I can't drink because I've
yeah.
been sober 30 years now.
Well, no,
And
and a lot of people can't. See, it was weird for me because I would have fell under the classic. Well, hell, half my family was alcoholics. My grandmother was, my
Mhm.
dad was, and he was kind of was. He would be one, and then he would just quit, and then he would be one, and then he would just quit. He had the will to quit for a long time, but I don't know. I just don't like to drink it much anymore. So it's one of the things. But you know what, guys? I'll tell you a little story before we get into the good UFO stuff. So,
Yeah.
wife and I were coming back from a casino. Actually, we've been out hunting UFOs all night, by the way. So we said we're going to go to the casino, get some breakfast, have a couple of drinks, go home. I got blitzed, and so I'm driving. I'm driving down the highway, and a cop pulls us over. He said, "Man, you didn't see that in the road." I said, "What?" He said, "Obviously, you got a buzz." So he asked, he said, "Has your wife been drinking?" I said, "No." So she asked me, he said, "No." So he said, "Look, I'm gonna do you a favor. I got to give you a ticket for whatever it was, not for DUI or anything, but he gave me a ticket for something. I forgot what it was." And so he let Linda drive us home. So Linda and I got a big argument about what the cop looked like. I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "He was an old fat white redneck, typical in S and BS in Mississippi cop, right?" My wife's like, "Joe," he was like, "a young, thin black cop. What are you on crack?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Well, guess who was right and who was wrong?
You were
So,
right.
yeah, I was right. All right, I was wrong big time. I got to the courthouse, and here's this tall, thin black guy standing there, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" And I didn't care about the ticket. I was paying it. I just didn't like being wrong. But hey, that
Okay,
was enough for me.
Denise.
I
Thank
never
you.
drink and drive.
I'm sorry. I'm just talking to
Yeah,
my buds here.
yeah. But
Okay, Denise, Tara, good to see you.
that same highway, we used to see many scary things on that highway. I mean, I still do actually. It's just there's a couple of roads down here that intersect between military facilities and NASA facilities and deep swamps. So you never know what you're going to run into. We were out on a sky watch, and we were
Right.
about 10 of us one night, and somebody, it sounded like this was on NASA territory, by the way. It sounded like somebody was like, it just sounded like a horse was screaming. It wasn't a horse. We don't know what the hell it was, but it sounded like a horse was screaming. And I mean, screaming like a banshee, man. I was like, what? And never did. And then later that morning, about 4 in the morning, we all stopped to get breakfast. And everybody was in a different mood. So,
What do you mean? Like,
my wife was laughing her ass off. She's just laughing her ass off. So obvious, whatever that happened to everybody else, I was just like kind of dumbfounded. Other friend of ours she was just so pissed she couldn't see straight, and it
you
ran
think
like that
this
through the
is
whole
all
group.
UFO related?
Oh, I'm not sure what it was because you see, there's a spot we go to. So there's a videotape I posted a while back. It's on my Facebook page, guys. It's you'd have to go back a little ways and find it because it's for the archives, but so we were out with 7, 8, 9 people one night in Honey Island Swamp, right on NASA territory, Stennis NASA facility. So we went out there to do an experiment to see if 3 good telepaths could stop a gray if it approached them, because we know they were out there doing certain things. We know there's just been a lot of activity in that particular area. So we go out there, and you on the videotape, because the videotape is actually pointed at the sky looking for UFOs or meteors, because it was a Pleiades. I think it was about this time of year, so it was a Pleiades meteor shower that was going on as well. So you can hear all this stuff going on. So you hear the 3 in front just chatting, just talking, BSing, bullshitting. And then you hear the 3 in the back talking about this gray walking up.
Okay.
And then you hear the 3 of them say, they start talking to each other. They say, "Okay, concentrate." And then you hear them like, "All right, we can stop it, we can stop it." And then you hear some noise off to the side, because it's this weird cutoff to the side. And there's a big yellow square there with a big yellow X on, like X marks the spot, which is weird about that to start off with. And so you hear it, and then you hear them start freaking out because 2 more grays came out. And then you just hear all this screaming. I mean, it's just unbelievably. And then, but the 3 up front ain't hearing shit. They're still just chit chatting. Now you got to remember, there's a camcorder set up on a tripod. They may have each been 15 feet apart of the tripod, so 30 feet apart at most. And it's amazing that they didn't see anything. And then later, everybody was getting in the car, and something pushed the car down. So we got up to they stopped at a Family Dollar or something, and they bought some baby powder. They sprinkled it all over the back of the trunk. They got pictures of it, and you can see these 3 and 4 finger prints, long, like this, on the back of the trunk where it had pushed down on the car. This creepy shit still creeps me out to think about it. It's just so much stuff goes up on that area. See, that's why I always invite people down, because I have never gone out there. I've never gone to this location with anybody that they haven't seen something or haven't experienced something.
Okay.
And I
I
mean,
know
we've
when I go
experienced it.
down there, we're going, dude.
Oh man, so there's a place deep inside of Honey Island, people. It's on the NASA base. It's actually on NASA facility, and so NASA. Stennis NASA facility is a huge base down here. They test rocket engines and other stuff. They also got an oceanographic site there as well. But so the place is huge. And so when in the old days, when the Apollo rockets, when they first tested them, they blew out windows for, I don't know, 40 miles in each direction. So NASA got the idea that they would incorporate all this area. They would take it over. So they took over 5 cities or 5 small towns. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But they took over 5 small towns. And all that area is now the buffer zone for NASA. It's a huge area. So all that buffer zone you're allowed to go into. And you go all the way up against the main fence of the NASA facility. And man, you can hear some shit up there. But when you get up in there, it's crazy. So, and then right in the smack of all of that is a 360-year-old graveyard sitting in the middle of the swamp, well kept, nothing around it but that, because it's a leftover from one of those cities. There's actually several of them in these areas, because when the cities were removed, the graveyards were left, and they're
Right.
still well maintained. They're still used, actually. It's some of the creepiest shit you ever seen in your life. Especially if you're not used to a swamp, man. You're way, way
Lost.
back in the swamp. You're thinking, what the hell is going to come out of the ground and get you out of here, man? Or the sky, whatever comes first.
Zombies. But
That's creepy.
so you're near the NASA base.
Yeah.
Do you think that they're hiding some UFOs on that base? Do you think there's
Well,
some
I'll
aliens?
tell you what. A group of us seen one night. So, right after Katrina, I had a bunch of people came in from around the country to help with my company doing Katrina, and we were paying good. But we had a couple of Canadians come down. We had people from Texas, from California, all over the place. But I had about 50 guys, 50, 60 guys working for me. About 25 of them from outside, and a lot of them knew me, so they had come down to help out, and they were already into the UFO stuff. Well, a couple of times we just went out places as groups. First scary, spooky story was a friend of mine, Mike, we called him Canuck. I took him down to the city. This is about 2 weeks after Katrina
The New Orleans. Right?
in New Orleans. So there was still water and all around. So I stood him up in this location. I said, stand in this corner and tell me what you hear. Because look, there wasn't a cricket, a bird, a person. There was nothing. It was the absence of nothingness. You did not hear anything. You didn't feel anything. You didn't sense anything. You didn't smell anything. It was just, it was like being in a vacuum.
Right.
It was one of the creepiest feelings I've ever felt in my entire life. It was just, I mean, it was just nothingness.
Mhm.
It was creepier than if there had been a demon standing there. I mean, it was just, what the hell is this? It was like something new. But it was creepy, but all this stuff expands out from the city now, and it's weird. Anytime we have a major catastrophe, a lot of it like condenses back into the city. So the city's like a sponge. It gets really weird stuff going on, and then it kind of filters out to the suburbs. And then if he gets indulged in salt water, something gets pushed back into the city. But it's strange. But getting back to the alien, it's a strange. Well, I'm sorry, what you were saying, Sean?
Yeah, back to that story a little bit. Do
Yeah.
you feel like when Katrina came in, and that you went into the city of New Orleans, do you think the spirits were all like ticked off and mad? And
Well, the problem is that let's look at this from a spiritual point of view. So New Orleans is in a bowl, okay, and it was filled with salt water. So spirits were screwed.
right,
Most of them probably just got evaporated. They probably, because they just got indulged in salt water, they just probably got diluted into the moving water. Plus, it was salt water and it was moving water, and it was being pushed in and out and drawn out all over. A lot of them spirits probably either got destroyed or pulled out into the swamps or pulled out into the lake or pulled out into the Gulf, where they really couldn't do anything, and probably just dissolved themselves out there. But the ones that could or had experienced this before pushed themselves, they knew where to go to the city, because the city's high ground. It didn't flood. The
Right.
city's built on a few areas of the area that's above sea level. They go there, and you can tell because right after the storm, the city, there was lots and lots of reports of all kind of stuff going on, but there was
Okay.
nothing anywhere in the suburbs being reported. Even now, the suburbs are still quite a bit lighter than they were pre-Katrina.
Okay.
It's taking that long to get back out. I guess it's actually really more people coming back. People that have died or just taking the spots over. It's weird, but anytime getting back to Honey Island when you're out there. So we go out there all the time. I bring this group from that are working for me, Katrina. We go out to the other side of Honey Island on the Mississippi side. So we pull up
Okay.
in there. We get way back in there. And Jason, who's a friend of mine, who's one of ICAR's directors, he used to have a show on the network called Underbridge Universe. Anyway, we're back there, and him and Canuck and a bunch of other people, and you see, it's just so you see what looks like to be a silver saucer, typical like out of a Hollywood movie shit and thing. It's just moving along, moving along, moving along, and we're watching it, just smoothly going across the sky. And
Mm-hmm.
then you see what looks to be some type of fighter jet. Pretty sure it was it might have been a Tomcat, might have been F-15. I'm not sure. It was definitely in that class. Right behind it, not within probably 200 yards, was an X-117 Stealth
Oh
following right
wow.
behind. So we're all just sitting there, just like, are we really seeing this? Well, there's so many of us. I think there was 12 of us that night. So, and some of these people had never seen anything. So it was just freaky. It was
Mm-hmm.
almost like it was staged. I mean,
Right.
it was just weird. So we watched it. So I still remember this. We're cruising. We get on the interstate. We're all going back. Everybody took different directions. We're going back to the house. I told everybody to meet me back in my house. But I said I'm going to stop for breakfast at Waffle House first because I want to get something to eat. I was hungry. It's like 5:30 in the morning or something at this point. And so we're driving along, and Mike goes, "But Joe, why is it so dark if it's early in the morning?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "It's because it's early in the morning." And it's like, "No, no, shouldn't like the sun be trying to come up? 5:30 is just starting to peak out or something."
Right.
And Jason's like, something's just not right. Then we realize we're like 70 miles past our exit.
Wow.
Yeah, which should have only took us 10 minutes to get there. So we look at the time. Time was like running backwards. And then we
Huh.
get to Causeway, which used to be the longest bridge in the world. I don't know if it's like in the top three now, but so we get there and it's crack of dawn. When we get on the side of the bridge, it's like 7:30 at night.
Huh.
Whole experience, yeah, the whole thing. It was just it's hard to explain because it was so disjointed.
Right.
It was like it was almost like broke time, and it was a full day and a half. We don't know what the hell happened, and not just
So do
us,
you
but there
think
was.
you could have gone into like a portal of some sort?
I think they snatched our asses. What I think happened, but
Okay.
because it's first off, I mean we're on NASA base. We're on the base. We're out there with recording equipment and lasers and all sorts of shit. Guns up to the yin yang, you name it. We got all kind of detection equipment with us. So I mean, we're right there next to the NASA facility. They probably said, "Hey, you know what? Let's just knock these guys out." Or it could have been ET. I mean, we did see the saucer. It's just hard to say what it was. And even today, when I talked to Jason about it, and nobody wants to be hypnotized about it. Nobody in the whole entire group, which is odd because everybody in the group's been hypnotized before.
Okay.
Uh, it's
So
a
do
it's
you?
a it's like programmed into you not to be hypnotized.
I'll be. Nah. I can see that happen. Do you think? Oh, what was I going to say? About the hypnotizing or go? Does that work when someone deals with an alien or UFO abduction?
Yeah, it works. But it works.
How's
But
it? How's it work? How's it work?
well, because if a memory's locked away, and it doesn't always work. So first off, you got to have someone who's skilled and understands missing and gain time. If you don't, you're not going to get anything out of it anyway. Um, you've got to know how to approach it so that the individual can tell you the information without you using words like alien or spacecraft or any of that shit. All you want the individual to do is tell you what they saw in their own words. Describe what it is that happened to you and what you saw. Just start at the beginning and work your way to the end, and start at the end and work your way back to the beginning. And then after that, what we do is so there'll be a voice stress meter running next to that, so we can use that to help, to figure out what questions we want to ask. But we use that to get the information out, and then we'll all sit down and listen to it. And then we'll formulate a line of questions that still doesn't use words like extraterrestrial or spacecraft,
Right.
because in the end, you want the individual to say it. Now, once they say it was a gray, or they say it was this type of craft or that kind of craft, you can use it, but not until they say it. Because if you say it at any time, then you're implanting the memory.
Okay.
And that memory may be there forever, especially depending if it's a deeper hypnosis. It's it- I use hypnosis. So this is a quick summary of the organization, but we were anti hypnosis for the first 10 years ICAR existed. We were
Can you
just
explain what ICAR is?
no ICAR people is simply just the International Community for Alien Research, the largest UFO abduction alien organization in the world by far, actually. Which is actually transforming into something else because we were asked by a group if we could rearrange some of the stuff we do. So we'll see how that works out in the near future. And when we start doing it, I'll let everybody know because we'll be looking for directors and stuff. But it's going to be an interesting change in the way we do things. But it was just an organization to find contactees. We used it so we could get abductees and contactees from not just America but from around the world to send us their stories or contact us. And we set up what we call abduction criteria so that we can see what the similarities are between contacts between individuals. We have 87,000 cases altogether. It's a lot of cases,
Well,
and it spans 25
how,
years. It's
so how do you deal with all those cases?
Well, everybody in the beginning, the early days, there was I don't know, about 1,400 of us. Well, I shouldn't say that early days, about in mid-range days, there was about 1,400. And just everybody would take on a couple of cases. And some cases were sent to us so there was ICAR Brazil, which still exists. Out of the blue one day, they did a case study on 5,000 people who had been abducted by what they call human type aliens. So they just sent the whole case study to us. So that was just, and then we just, sorry guys, we just took it and just kept it running. I think it's up to like 16 or 17,000.
Okay.
The Greys somewhere around 20, 30,000, and the Reptilians around 10 or 15,000. So these are just cases that just keep coming in. Now, we look through them all because some of them have nothing, no criteria at all, which is kind of throws up a red flag when you see those cases. It doesn't mean that it's not somebody isn't having a contact. It just means you got to look and see why is it different, because there's abduction starts pre-birth, runs through your childhood, runs through your pre-puberty, runs through puberty, runs through early adulthood, and then runs all, for most people, at least half the people run all the way through death. So they have their agendas, and we're just, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, we're just part of their agenda. We're not even the damn main agenda. We're just
Right.
part of it.
Okay.
I know humans
is
can't
their
help
main
themselves.
agenda, do you
I
think?
can't tell you that. They'd kill you.
Oh,
And
really?
then everybody listening to us tonight, that would not be a nice thing, man.
Right.
Actually, I'll tell you a little secret, though. I had Alfred Weber on one night on a show I used to hold called Wake Up USA, a UFO study. And he kept bugging me about alien agendas. I said, all right, we'll talk about the damn alien agenda. So I started to talk, and the whole internet went down. Not just everybody who was listening to us. I think there was like 1.1 million people that night. The whole thing went down. Everybody lost us. Their internet
Wow.
went down, physically went down. So 15 minutes later, we came back up. We're talking again. And And then we started talking about it. Boom. And this went on for the whole 3-hour show. It would just go down and then it would come back up, and it would go down and it would come back up. And it would have been one thing if it was just ours, but it was everybody's. And we literally had, I think, 5,000 people right in and said, what is going on? Why does our internet keep going off? And then you would hear people in the line, because we were using phone lines back then, talking to Alfred and I, saying, you can't be talking about this, Joe. You know the rule, man. You can't be talking about the alien agenda, man. You can't, because I've been threatened twice about alien agendas in my life. And both times I heeded the warning, because the second time they didn't threaten me. They threatened my wife and my kids. So, and they threatened me in front of 20-something contractors. I was running a roof crew. I was on a job site on a roof with 20 guys ripping off a roof, putting on a new roof. That's what I was doing that day. And this guy pulls up. These two guys pull up in a white SUV with black tinted windows. I mean, really dark windows. Guy gets out of the car. He's got a gray suit on. He buttons his suit. And as he's doing it, you can see he pulls it over a gun. I'm thinking, what? They look like feds, man. So I see him start pointing at the roof and doing this. I'm like, what the hell? So I'm pointing at different guys, and they're shaking their head, and I'm pointing at different guys. And finally, I pointed at me, and I'm like, oh, shit, what did I do?
Right.
I mean, they definitely look like feds. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have any taxes. And then they would have sent you a letter first. So I'm going down the thing. I get on the ground. I walk over there. Guy just says, look, he tells me where my wife is, what's my son's doing. Not only what they were telling me what they were doing at the moment we were talking.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I verified it with my wife to make sure, and I mean, exactly, it was really creepy. So he said, "Look, we endorse what you do." He said, "You wouldn't get away with it. There's a lot of stuff you do we really like, and we really appreciate that you asked." And he said, "But the alien agenda is off limits." And he said, "We ain't going to tell you this again." He said, "You travel a lot." He said, "Do you know how easy it would be to just run you off a road somewhere?" He said, "Your wife, because we were working for a company at the time. I was a district manager for a company called Rose. I called you said deliver roses around the deep south and to stores and shit." He said, "Your wife's in the rose all the time. Your kids with her. Poof, you wouldn't even
So
know, and nobody would
could
question it because it was an accident on the highway."
so could it? Everybody out there knows about the Men in Black. Okay. A, was it a Men in Black? And B, if not, the government. What would you think it would be?
Well, it's probably some type of Men in Black. I mean, the Men in Black don't drive black old POS Fords anymore or in black suits, but it was typical. I mean, they had black glasses on, the windows were all tinted out. They were dressed to the nines. I mean, both them guys were wearing Armani suits. I mean, we're talking $4,000 or $5,000 suits. Um, their equipment was top of the line. You could tell there was other stuff going on. It was just, and it was so surreal the way they were talking to me. I was like, okay,
But
yeah.
here's where I get really really like confused, Joe. What I get confused about is what is so important that the government has to come in and threaten people like you, or just don't want to talk
Because they
about
don't know what the hell's going on.
it. Okay.
They don't want anybody talking about it because they don't know. See, that's the problem. Everybody always assumes the government knows everything. Well, you should know from everyday life that government doesn't know everything. Our government doesn't know jack half the time. So, there's been no big deals made between them and the aliens. Look at our technology in China's. I mean, the technology field's leveling out in our countries. I mean, around the world. If we were dealing with aliens, we'd still be way, way, way advanced. We're talking 100, 150 years, and we're not.
Right.
There's no big things coming out of this. Isn't these all the science coming out right now is just progressive science, because it's just natural progression, just moving along, moving along, moving along, moving next invention, next discovery, next invention, next discovery. None of this has been earth shattering. And somebody said, "Well, we're going to cure cancer." I said, "Well, we've been working cancer cure for 40 years. It's
Mm-hmm.
about damn time. Let's be honest about it. It's not like aliens just gave us a cure for cancer." And I get mad when people do that because there are some sciences that we may have picked up somewhere along the line from a crash craft or something, but for the most part, it's just us working along at a natural progression, trying to get ahead, trying to do the right things, and trying to develop our technologies
Right.
as a race. But there is a group out there that probably oversees a lot of what goes on, and these people they know some people who are being taken, and that's why they call it military abductions because it's not the military to start off with. This group is probably people like ex generals, ex colonels, ex Boeing people, high up people. They're probably all banded together a long time ago, and they probably know a lot about what's going on. But they still don't really know what the aliens are doing here, what the aliens want. They don't understand, and they don't understand why the aliens aren't willing to talk to them about it because they're not contactees. They're not part of the program, and they don't care. And I try to get this across to humans all the time because everybody wants to make themselves so important because they're abductees. You are important because you're being taken, but in the end, you're part of a billion and a half people that have been taken on and off since it started. So, um, we got to start making ourselves self-important and understand they're here for a reason. Some of us are part of the reason. Some people have been taken for whatever reason, but they've been taken since birth. This
Okay.
isn't random. This is not something that randomly happens. This is something that started at the dawn of mankind that has been going on ever since. And they had talked to whatever original families, probably because they find the psi abilities in that particular family lines to be high, and they abducted them. And then they started over the years slightly just bringing them up. And you can find groups of telepaths in this country that are very good. And if you don't believe that people that our government believes in telepaths, in 2020, the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy closed their remote viewing programs. Oh, see, Joe, they don't believe. Oh, no, but they do. They opened up for telepaths because telepaths are much more accurate than remote viewers are.
Right.
They knew this, so they started recruiting telepaths. So, best we can tell, one of the criteria to be an abductee or contactee is you have to be empathic or telepathic or both. All abductees and contactees are empathic. That's the very least they're empathic. It's one of the reasons they have so many problems in their life, because if you don't understand what it is to be an empath, you can be sharing or sending emotions, but you can be in a group of people and instantly become sad or happy or whatever, just be doofy, or you can be sending those same emotions out to a group of people around you. So it
Right.
takes skill and training. That's why you
Um,
find so many abductees and contactees in the psychic fields or in the paranormal fields,
I have no
because
doubt I was abducted, dude. I had to be, but I don't realize I was.
what
Seriously.
stop
And,
people.
and
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry for getting pinged away here.
I'm getting pinged too, dude. But, is it possible maybe, share some abductee stories with our listeners from clients that you had?
Well, just recently I did one for Michelle, which I'm not going to talk too much about, for a documentary that's upcoming in the future. But that was hypnosis case done over the air. I'm not a big fan of doing them online. I will do them in the right circumstances and things are done correctly, but I do prefer to do them face to face. But different cases. So here's two cases. These are from way back. This is from the probably late '80s, early '90s. Uh, Two women I'd been communicating with. Still, one of them still living alive. Then they were both older then. Both of them had stage 4 cancer. Were making their peace with their maker. Both had known they were abductees for a long time and figured, okay, I'm gonna go, and that's gonna be the end of it. Bye bye. It's time to go. So they made their peace. Well, I still remember. I get this call. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, what the fuck? And this lady's screaming at me. And I'm like, what's up? What's up? She said, I'm cured. I'm like, what do you mean? She said, I'm fucking cured. She said, I started feeling this weirdness and I started feeling really good and had all this energy. So I went up to the hospital to see how the cancer was progressing, and there was none. And
Wow.
she's not only was there none, there was no damage.
Whoa.
She said, Joe, you know how many x-rays they've got on my cancer. I understand that. And it wasn't 4 hours later, the other woman called me with the exact same thing. And these are well documented cases. So they, for some reason, and they don't do it for everybody, by the way, they just, for some reason, they like some better than others. So they do have preferences.
Okay.
And they do have a sense of humor, and they also have tempers. It's weird, not like ours. And the world of reptilians, we are a lot like the reptilians in a lot of ways, man. Maybe it's because we got that reptilian section in our brain, but
Could
we
you
are a
tell
lot
my
like that.
listeners what reptilians are?
Reptilians are myself and Sean here. We're just wearing this thing right now. If you get too close, we will eat you with a little hot sauce, a little barbecue sauce. I'm just telling you, I'm just warning you ahead of time. No, really, really, truly. There's a lot of stories about it, what the reptilians were doing on our planet. But remember, there were dinosaurs on our planet 60 million years ago. So it's not unreasonable that a planet, a race of reptilians and might want to come here and hang out. And the problem is they're not true reptilians. They are warm blooded. They may look like reptiles, but they're not really in that sense the way we think of a reptile. And we all in our brain have a section in our brain of a reptilian. And the thing about it is, without it, you would just be a passive little idiot that would just walk through life blindly and never ask why about anything. So the story has it way, way back in the day. The reptilians realized that the planet was going to get hit by an asteroid. So that some of them went underground, some of them just left. But anyway, they were gone. Well, sometime, long time after that, 50, 60 million years later, the human aliens showed up on Earth, found the planet with no real life on it. I mean, no intelligent life on it, like we think of intelligent life, harvested some local species, and created what we would consider a slave race. Eventually, slave race come to look a lot like us. They could procreate, they could make beer. They never asked why they had to do anything. They were just, your everyday happy little slave race. Well, the reptilians, for some reason, and the Dogon talk about this, so do the Egyptians. For some reason, the reptilians got a hair up their ass and decided, you know what? No, they can't be slaves. So they went over there and started stealing the women. They raped the women. They brought the women back. Well, the women had children. Initially, when I heard the story, I thought they were talking about the children looked different, but that's not what happened. The children acted differently. They now had that little reptilian section in their brain. So now that the children had this, eventually they grew up and they had more children, and they became a sentient species, eventually over toppling the Sumerians, saying, hey, look, we're not in the aliens, the two cities the aliens had here. They were like, nope, time to get out of this. They just had enough of it. So we all have that, and I've won so much money on this reptilian section of your brain. I have had people I was at a conference not too long ago. This lady screaming, I'm God created me. I have no reptilian in me. I said, baby, whether God created you or not, he put a little reptilian in you. I said, it's just nothing you can do about it. You have this woman screaming, and so I look it up on the internet. And the internet is the devil's work. I was like, okay. I said, well, you do. So you just got to deal with it. But that little section makes us different. Without it, we would not be who we are. So it's an important part of who and what we are. Now, some people say we evolved from reptilians and that's why we have it. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Maybe something interbred with us and that's why we have it.
Okay.
Regardless, when all this happened, so real quick, ladies and gentlemen, in case you didn't know, we were a very boring species and we're going to turn into it again. So, hold on, let me take a sip of this drink.
You all right? Well, Joe, you
Damn
okay,
it, thanks,
brother?
damn. No, I was trying to get the mic to stay on. Sorry about that, guys. I just didn't want to have coffee in y'all's ears. Regardless, about 2 million years ago, whenever the hell it was, when originally when the reptilians came out of this, and the species that came out of this was different. So 2 million years ago, if you came down here, the Earth looked the same. We were brown-eyed, brown-haired, brown-skinned. We weren't black-skinned. We weren't blonde-haired. We were brown-eyed, and brown-skinned. Sorry, guys, that's who we were. As a species, that's what we were. And then somewhere along the line, you had this inbreeding with us, and we started having mutations. Those mutations gave us green eyes, blue eyes, other colored eyes. They also gave us the Rh negative factor, because before then there was no Rh negative on the planet. I know, isn't that interesting that
Yeah.
40 or 5,000 years ago, out of the blue, this Rh negative pops up on the planet. What's most interesting about it is it's a baby killer. So Rh negative kills babies. It creates stillborns. So in case y'all don't notice, in the old days, I know some of you youngins don't know this, but in the old days, you used to have to go have a blood test to get married. And the reason why is
Yeah.
an Rh positive and Rh negative have a chance of having a stillborn baby. Later on, they invented something called the antidenissin G gene that you can get a shot, and that can keep you from having that problem. But before that, they couldn't. So for 40,000 years, we had this other type of blood on the planet that actually killed babies, but yet still somehow it was making progress because it's 15-16% of the population today. So even while it was killing off babies, it was still making strides into the Rh positive population. Science don't know how this all happened. They still don't understand it. And
they're trying to figure it out to this.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
here's now I know I'm going to talk to my listeners here for a minute. I know this, might sound crazy to you and stuff like that, but you know what? Joe knows what he's talking about. In fact, I've been with him for almost 3 years now, and I've listened to it, and I've done my own research, and it's crazy, but it is,
Yeah, it's all crazy.
Now, Joe, I have a question. Now, you talked about the reptilians. Is there any other type of race of aliens that are out there?
Well, we really, there's supposed to be a lot. I mean, if you listen to some of the ufology, there's 54 types. You know what? I've never seen that. I've seen no evidence for that at all. Oh, they're using a Stargate. I said, well, I still haven't seen any evidence. I have seen the evidence for the reptilians, the humans, the grays, the light beings, the cleanup crew, which are these ugly, short, brown-looking things. They kind of look like 3-foot, 4-foot grays, but wrinkly. The tall whites from Charles Hall, and I'm missing somebody, but there's 6 types I would investigate because they're the only ones that have any evidence of any kind that they exist. All the rest of them are just pipe dreams. You get one person. Oh, there is one other. I can't remember his name. I don't investigate it because his name's just too funny to me. It cracks me up. But I forgot what it was called. Caliboo or Caliboo. But anyway, you heard a lot of it in the 50s. It was supposed to be some dominant alien that would come help humans out. Big, scary looking thing that would come help humans out. But I haven't seen any real evidence of it. But the Greys, reptilians, and humans, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of cases.
Okay.
And see, one of the reasons we started all this was I needed a way to find out what was going on but not release too much of it to the general public because I didn't want people lying to me. So about half of what we talk about, like the blood type study, we did release that in the blue plasma, and we do release stuff from time to time. But for the most part, we keep about 50% of our criteria secret to the organization because we use that to find out who's lying, who's telling the truth. Because over the 30 years now, or actually for me, almost 40 years I've been doing it, there's ways to see what's going on. There's things you can track now. There's physical evidence that you can get your hands on. There's other stuff now that lets you know that there's something going on. My problem is it's always the same thing. Most people are here like, oh, they're here to eat us or kill us. Oh, no, they're here to save us. Okay, how do you come to that conclusion? They've been here a long time. I mean, a long time. Well, Sean looks kind of juicy. They ain't eating his ass. So
Yeah, I have a
I'm
lot
thinking,
of fat and
I'm
cholesterol.
thinking, hey, but that fat's good, makes the meat good, and tender and stuff.
Hey, Joe.
uh,
Joe, I got a question for you
yeah,
from one of my listeners, Tommy. Hey, Tommy, good to see you, buddy.
hey, Don,
He
what's that, man?
says, sorry, I'm late getting on, so not sure if you already covered this. But do you guys think aliens were involved with building pyramids across the world?
Oh, that's a tough question. I used to a lot when I first got into this. And then I was watching this thing one day about Snafu or Snafu, whatever his name is. So he's the father of the guy who built the first real pyramid. But Snafu built the bent pyramid. He built 3 pyramids. And they're a progression from this funky looking square thing with a point on the top to one which was bent. That's why they call it the bent pyramid. And then to a normal, but it was a small one. Well, his father's the one who built the Great Pyramid. So I don't know. That kind of sounded like a progression. Now, some of the things I think aliens could have been involved in is like, cutting that stone like that. They probably did it with water, but they would have still had to have some way to make that kind of pressure. However, I understand. And then there's other weird things like when you look at the hieroglyphs, especially when they were building these cities, they have these tubes about this long, and it looked like there was like an eel inside of it, and it would be like an electric symbol, like it was giving off light or something. And then they have a cord running from it, so the symbol was probably a filament. They probably had some kind of light bulbs because nobody could figure it. You couldn't have had fires because it would have sucked all the air out of the place and everybody would have suffocated.
So
So
we got circled, dude.
yeah,
Big Brother's listening in, dude.
oh yeah, Big Brother loves us, man. Me and brother have a deal. Yes, I don't tell the ETs to wipe them out, and they leave me alone.
Tommy, I hope that answered your question. And anybody else out there listening or watching the show, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask Joe. And
But too, people, if you're in the South, we're going to be starting a series of conferences down here. I know we've planned a couple of 4 or 5 locations that we want to hit, but I doubt we'll get above DC. We may talk ourselves into doing one in DC, but we're planning on doing one in Atlanta, which is not all that far from DC. So, what is it, like 6 hours or something? So I don't know. We've been thinking about it, but because there's no conferences in the South at all. I mean, none.
and in fact, that's probably why there's a lot of UFO sightings.
Well,
in this
but
hour.
Tommy, it's way crazier than that. So, so you're right. If you go back to 12,500 BC, the 3 Great Pyramids line up with Orion at that time, but the Sphinx lines up with Leo at 12,500 BC. Well, that's interesting, right? Easter
Yep.
Island lines up with the 7 Sisters at 12,500 BC. Angkor Wat lines up with Draco at 12,500 BC. The Stonehenge, I forgot which one it lines up with, but it lines up with the one as well at 12,500 BC.
Why is that so important? All that happened.
Well, think about it. So you got to understand precession to even do this. You got to understand they go backwards. So all these monuments we were talking about were built 6,000 years after the date I'm given.
Right.
So they had to understand how to go backwards to set these things to line up with these constellations at that time period.
Okay.
That's pretty significant. I mean, today you still need a computer to do. I mean, you can do it by hand, but it's a pretty good thing to do. And also, most people don't realize it, but the Egyptians mapped the wobble of the Earth to 2 degrees, which is what we've mapped it to with advanced computers. I'm sorry, 4 degrees. And we did it with 2 degrees. It's there's some serious stuff was going on back then. Somebody knew something. You know what else? And there's one other odd thing. The human aliens, their heads are different than ours in the face. If you look on them like this, they look the same. But if you look on them sideways, their head goes back about this much further than ours does.
Right.
Well, it's weird because a lot of the Egyptian pharaohs had a disease, they thought anyway, that made their head shaped like that. If they were hybrids, though, it would have made sense why they were like that. And
Right.
so you just don't know what, none of us what was theirs, what the problem is. And you don't even see, you see mention of reptilians and human type creatures way before Christ and all, but you don't really see the grays until right around the time of Christ. And that's when everything changed. Because before that, most of the planet worshiped reptilians. After
Right.
the birth of Christ, they didn't.
Now, I have a question for you, and I've heard this from other people, and I tried to research it, but I couldn't get an answer, and I don't know if they're pulling my chain, but some of them old paintings, like Jesus rising up,
Mhm.
going into the light, these people were telling me that Jesus could have been an alien or the
I
little
got
white.
fired over that.
What
I lost a job over that.
did you? Well,
Yeah.
there's like a white disc that are in the paintings that could represent UFOs. What's your thought on that?
Well, there are at least 500 pieces of artwork through about, it was across about a 500-year period of time, or about 250-year period of time, um, mostly like in the medieval times and a little bit before that, that showed all of these pictures. Lots and lots of artwork with extraterrestrial craft. And so you'd see there's a picture of Mary. I don't know what she's doing. I think she's just sitting on a rock chilling with Jesus. And you see this thing, it looks like a comet at first, and then you realize there's somebody sitting in it. Then you see another one coming this way. You see there's somebody sitting in them though. And you see like what looks to be instrumentation. I don't even know who would even knew what a freaking instrumentation was back then. So,
Right.
and the thing of it is, now I tell this people all the time when people ask me where they should start in ufology, I always start tell them to start in the past, because if you go back more than 200 years and something's flying in the sky, it's interesting because nothing was flying in the sky. There was no motion of flight other than birds back then,
Right.
or comets and stuff. So anytime you heard about controlled flight, it was very interesting. Well, there's lots of paintings like that, and not just as some out of the Middle East. It's just, it was a strange thing. I know you can find, somebody did a collection of I think 150 of them that you can find online in one collection, and they're all religious pictures. They're all serious religious pictures, and most people don't realize. But in the Sixtine Chapel, there is a picture of one of them in there. So it does seem like the Vatican's been aware of extraterrestrials since they were conceived.
Well, that's what I've heard too. That the Vatican knows a lot about it, and I don't know where I heard this. Maybe I'm pulling this out of my butt, but something about the new pope, the pope we have now, knows that there are aliens, and he said something. Is that true?
Oh, I don't know if he said something. I've heard rumors, but the thing of it is, all the popes know. It's not like they don't know. I'm sure, because popes stay in office a long time, or more presidents, they don't really tell our presidents, but they tell the pope probably knows, because he's going to be in there for life more than likely. So the thing of it is they've been knowing, and so it's been about 20 years now. So I met Monsignor Balducci, and Paola Harris actually translated this conversation for us because he spoke Italian. He's one of the ones he's way up in the, he's a Monsignor in the Vatican, at the Vatican. He came out and said that extraterrestrials are real, and that the Vatican has known about it for a long time. Well, the Pope at the time did not contradict him, and neither has any Pope since then. I think there's been two. No one's contradicted his statement. So
Okay.
it's worse than that, though. So we're talking. So I asked him, how did he feel? Could he describe? He said, his words, not mine, they were on a much higher evolutionary scale than we were, and were much closer to God than we could hope to be for a very, very, very long time, because they
Okay.
had been around a lot longer. They understood the progression of going to heaven, I guess. Well, whatever it was, he did believe that they were divine beings. God did create them just like he created us, but they were extraterrestrials living on another world, visiting this world, and did have impact and influence on this planet. So, this is, like I said, high at Monsignor. Well, 5 years later, I meet the Vatican's astronomer. We're at X conference, and we're talking, and he's telling me about how many files the Vatican has on extraterrestrials. He said literally 1 million plus files.
Wow.
He said there's artwork down there, there's pictures. He said there's serious pictures of what you would definitely think would be aliens. And he said, it's sacrilege to think that Jesus could have been an extraterrestrial. And I did lose. I was a general manager, high paying general manager for McDonald's way back when I was in my 20s. And they fired me for saying that. I asked someone, did you ever think that Jesus could have been an extraterrestrial? And the family that owned the place was really religious. And they let me go over it. So
Okay.
be careful what you say, people. And it's more acceptable today, but still, um,
That's hard, especially up in my area, and I'm sure down in Mississippi and New Orleans with all the Catholicism that goes on down there, right?
yeah. But it's different though because with a lot of Catholics do believe that there are aliens because the Pope and them, have never denounced extraterrestrial life. They've never come out and said ET doesn't exist or that they don't even know. I know at least 4 popes have been asked, and none of them have denied it. They could have said, "No, we don't." What are you talking about? But since popes are not supposed to be lying, they don't. They don't deny it. They just ignore it,
Right.
which they can do because how are you going to force the Pope to speak? You're not. So they have evidence they've been here a long time. They have stuff that they've collected, they have stuff that was collected before they even existed, pre AD stuff back but and then there are writings. The Romans actually had some writings in, but one of my favorite stories is, and this is I think it was in Persia at the time. There had been a city that had been under siege for almost 3 years, and they were going back and forth fighting, and it just wouldn't stop, and people were dying. And one evening, right after dusk, this silverish bluish shield looked just like a giant shield in the sky, came up to the front gate, and a blue beam came down and blew the entire gate apart, and the invading army came in and took over. Both sides reported this, the winners and the losers.
Okay. And this is
So
written down, right?
yeah, it is written down. It's part of our history. So it's just there's lots of little things out there. It's like the O parts. No one can explain O parts, and O parts are just out of place parts. When they find like a gear buried in a piece of coal, 1,000 feet underground, it means it's 5, 10, 20 million years old.
Right.
Or a cog that's dating back to the era of the dinosaurs. Really, what the hell?
Right.
We have geodes that they found things in. The geode battery, there's been 2 geode batteries found. I know one of them was a fake. I don't know if the other one was. I was told the other one wasn't, but you'd have to double check it.
What's a geode battery?
They found like a geode is one of them stones with the pretty crystals inside. Well, they found like one of them had a lithium battery in it, and one had a set of D batteries, and they were operating some piece of equipment.
Right.
That was inside the geode. So one we're almost pretty positive was a fake, but the other one, I don't know. The other one looked pretty good because the guy, when he cut whatever inside of it was part of it off because he didn't know it was there. The other was cut in such a way that it didn't damage the thing inside, which made me think.
Right. But you know what? I know people who cut geodes. In fact, I got 2 or 3 of them that I want to cut pretty soon, and they cut straight through, dude. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. So anytime you cut off on the side, it means I don't know. It's weird when it happens.
Hey, Tommy, before we go on, Joe, I want to thank our sponsor tonight, Carnation, for sponsoring the section of our show, and I want to thank you, Carnation, for sponsoring. Tommy Miller has another question for you. He says, what do you think about the alien life on or around Antarctica?
I guess we'll find out in about 20 years when the damn thing melts. We'll know what's up there or down there, is what I should say. First off, I guess I could stay down there, but I often wondered about, why would they hide at Antarctica or the North Pole when they could just hide underwater near wherever they want to be? I mean, we've got reports of underwater objects in the Gulf and the Mediterranean, the Mississippi River, along the East Coast, the West Coast. Every port major, every deep water port in the entire planet is reported having underwater UFOs. So I would think they would just want to, big ship, park it underwater. I mean, I spent 3 days in a military jail in Tampa because we were on an island off the coast of Tampa. Well, it was 14 investigators. We got a tip that they had some big black triangles that had been being seen out there over boats and stuff. So we found this island, went and set up on it, all kind of equipment. This thing came over. If it wasn't 2 miles across, it wasn't 2 feet across. It was massive. Mm-hmm. It was such a weird place because we're sitting there watching this thing, and out of nowhere, there's like 14 Jeeps full of military people, man. They took all of our equipment, roughed us up pretty good. Next day or 2 days later, we found ourselves, we were in Tampa somewhere, so there must have been some kind of underwater link between the island and Tampa, because they released us on the third day with none of our equipment, refused to give any of it back. Um, and the few things they sent didn't have hard drives in them.
Oh, so they took it
So,
all. And see, again, that's where I have a hard problem understanding this. So, my
well, because
story,
you know what that was? That was being in the wrong place, looking at the wrong thing. It might not, and you know what? It could have been alien. It could have been ours. It
right,
could have been something new we were testing, and that's just the reason they did it. It's not, I can't, because I didn't see any aliens there. It, I doubt we had the technology to build something this big, but still, I
hmm
can't rule out that it couldn't have been something we were testing.
right.
As far as I know, it could have been a giant blimp, but whatever it was, they did not want us to see it. Uh,
Now, back to my family reunion. So, my cousin asked me a question. I know he's listening, or he will be listening later on.
hello,
He
hello,
wants to
cuz.
know what was the material in, you know, where in the hell is that place over in New Mexico? Area 51. What was the type of material that the spaceship came, that crashed?
So, yeah, you're talking about Roswell.
Roswell, yeah.
Yeah, so Roswell's a weird thing, and Roswell's gotten me in trouble over the years. I missed my friend DeAndre because she was a resident expert. She was better than any expert I ever met. She knew far more about it. But so Roswell's a weird thing, and it seemed to turn out to be something more than people like to talk about. So there was something that came down at Mac Brazel's ranch, and it broke up into pieces, and they think they found three grays. Okay. First off, anything that can cross interstellar space is not going to break up on impact. It's just not going to. It might disintegrate or it might embed itself in the dirt, but it's highly unlikely if it can take micrometeorites at light speed that it's going to break up on impact. I doubt that's going to happen. So what we think happened was there was a sauce involved because there was a father and some Boy Scouts had reported seeing a UFO on the ground with what looked to be like three human type bodies that were all peaches, oranges, kind of melty, kind of looking like they had been exposed to like some kind of serious radiation. So we think what happened was what came down at Mac Brashel's ranch was probably an escape pod of some kind that the
Okay.
Greys used to escape. They may have been overseeing us learning how to fly this thing or trying to help us understand how to fly this thing. But regardless, we screwed it up and we crashed it.
hmm
And then the three Greys went down. One of them survived. The other ones died. And the 3 or 4 humans that were involved all died. And they did recover the craft. It was intact. It was completely intact. The other craft was spread out across an acre and a half, 2 acres of land.
So,
That's
what
where
kind of material would that spaceship have if it didn't disintegrate coming
no,
down?
the only nothing that we got today. We've got materials. Well, we got a few materials that would get close. I guess you could surround it in some type of diamond casing or some type of energy field or some type of triple layered cover. But whatever this was is not something we possess the technology of. This is a material that can easily, you know, traverse deep space or even wormholes and not get damaged. So it's got to be something pretty tough. That's a problem when you talk about traversing the cosmos. There's lots of debris out there, left over from the creation, little pieces of chunks. What doesn't really matter, something this big around when you're traveling at, say 3 times the speed of light could rip right through your ship like it's nothing.
Right.
So you've got to have something that can disintegrate that when it hits it. And there may be, tensor fields or other types of fields force fields that may destroy it, but still the ship itself needs to be able to withstand those type of impacts. It should even be able to withstand the packs of meteors hitting it and stuff. So, well, why
Okay.
bother putting it in space? I mean, we know our crafts can't take that. I mean, a micrometeorite pierces a space station all the time. They got little plugs for them. Actually, you know what they use still sometimes? The Navy used to have these cork plugs, all different sizes you'd use
Yeah.
to fix a
Yeah.
hole in the ship.
Yep. Yep.
I'm not shitting y'all, people. You
It's
stick a
true.
cork in it and beat the cork through the hole. y'all
It's
think
true.
you think I'm kidding y'all? Oh, and they
It's
had them
true.
from this big to this big. I mean, they were huge. I'm thinking,
Yes.
you really think we're gonna get that cork through that hole? But I guess you get enough people, you get it in there. But
It's true.
and when the first time they showed me, and I'm like, I really thought my company commander was screwing with me. I was like, "You
No.
screwing with me, right?" He's like, "No, I'm serious." I'm like, "No, dude, you're screwing." And the guy's like, "No, Joe, he's being serious." I'm like, "Get the out of here, man!"
It's true.
I'm like, "Oh."
That is definitely true. Now I want to get into the cattle mutilations that you see on the ranches. What is your theory on that?
That Linda Moulton Howe hates me
That
because
what?
that Linda Moulton Howe hates me because I rewrote the theory of cattle mutilations. You know, people used to bug me about cattle mutilations all the time, and I wasn't interested in it. And it kept bugging me. It kept bugging me. And I was at a lecture at Linda Moulton Howe, and I'm thinking, I don't think, why would aliens do this? Why would they come take a couple of parts and then drop the thing back on the ground and leave? Because, I mean, once you take it up in space, why bring it back? Shoot the damn thing in orbit or something. Let it burn up in the sun. It just didn't make sense to me. So I started looking into it, and I talked to a couple of ranchers, and they said, well, they were like sled marks. Like sled marks means like a helicopter, and a couple of them had said they had seen black helicopters in the area that were running silent. I know, oh, we do have a couple of helicopters that can run silent. So I was thinking, well, maybe it's a gun, maybe it's not. And so then I started asking some questions, and I said, man, this guy lost 3 cows in like 2 months. And I'm like, man, why ain't you pissed? He said, well, they're insured. I said, I'm going to get full price for them. I'm like, wait, what? That
Wow.
caught me off guard. Okay. That was the first time that it caught me off guard. And I noticed that almost every rancher I talked to or every cow person I talked to, their cows were insured.
Oh wow.
Now, look, ET don't know your cow's insured.
Right.
I mean, the government would, but ET doesn't. So then I started thinking, what would be a reason that the government would want to do it? So I looked into the cuts because everybody said, oh, the government doesn't have that technology. Well, we've been having lasers that we can use in the field since 63.
Okay.
We've had the vacuum pump since I think the 50s or the 40s. I mean, we could drain out a cow in less than 2 minutes with a vacuum pump, no problem at all. It's not really an advanced technology or even a secret technology. It's just something we have. So I said, okay, well, we can do this, And then I looked at the pieces that were being, so I started asking doctors, why would anybody be interested in these pieces? And he told me, well, that's where certain chemicals would, would all correlate together at the same time. He said, it's like if they were contaminated with radiation or had eaten radiation, something radioactive, that's the first places it would show up in their bodies, in those places. Then it dawned on me. I said, there's really been no cattle mutilations east of the Mississippi River, and
Right.
really nowhere else on the planet. There have been some fake ones, but no real ones. So I got to thinking, So I got a map out, and I started looking at areas where we tested nuclear bombs. And guess what I found? Always within the area of where these cows were eating. So I figured out what was going on is this black helicopter would come in, dart the cow, take these pieces out, leave the carcass behind. That way the rancher got his money and are going about their merry business and
Oh
test to
wow.
see if there was radiation. And that's exactly what they're doing. I've actually had it verified since then.
Right.
But Linda Moulton Howe hates it because it's not alien then. And not all of this is going to be alien, people. Some of this shit has other explanations. When I first got in this field, people thought I was at the bunker. That's what they thought.
Right.
Because I debunked a lot of shit because there was a lot of garbage that needed to be debunked.
Mhm.
And, I had made friends with the bad astronomer, and him and I had many debates over the years. And we debunked a lot of shit between the two of us.
Right.
But, that's a good thing because what was left meant it was pretty solid. I rewrote the Betty and Barney Hill case. I rewrote the Roswell case, just because, like I told somebody asked me, well, you got nerves rewriting the case. I said, no. I said, you had all this 40 years ahead of me. I said, now I got to take all of that and all the stuff I've learned from my 20 years in the field doing this kind of research. And I can take that and talk to all these contactees, and I can put this all together and look at it differently than other people did. Because no one realized, like with the Hills, it was the 3 sets of memory instead of 2 sets of memories. There was just things that they should have been paying attention to that they weren't. Well, when Dr. Simon did the regression on the Hills, they didn't know any of the shit we know today.
Right.
He didn't even know what to ask. He was just fumbling around. Now we know about this stuff, so we know where to go. So it would have been a much different regression today, but And then people got really mad at me because I said Barney was the contactee and not Betty. And I liked Betty, but she wasn't the contactee. Barney was.
Uh-huh. Now, one more question, and then I would like to, because some of my listeners like cryptids and paranormal and stuff like that. And I want to talk a little bit about New Orleans. All right, don't choke yourself, dude. Come on,
I'm hanging myself, man.
don't hang yourself, man.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
one more question about: are there? Rumor has it that there are underground bases all over the place.
There are underground facilities. I mean, there's there's a map you can find. It's who does it? Not Homeland Security. Oh, who the hell was it? FEMA. So this was so stupid of FEMA, by the way. I'm watching this special on FEMA one night, and FEMA's talking about these abandoned bases. This big U.S. map behind them, right, and some islands, and they're showing these abandoned bases, which were dots of gray, just grayed out, little round dots, and red dots were active, and blue dots were strictly military. So that's what he said in the beginning. Well, we weren't paying attention at first. Well, so he's showing first thing they started off was that hotel. They used to have a facility in DC under. They talked about that one, and they talked about what replaced it and stuff like that. So when he moved away from the thing, the map is covered in red dots. There has to be 200 underground facilities in this country, at least.
Wow.
Now, how big? Some of them are probably quite big. Some of them are probably smaller, but there has to be at least 200. And it was an amazing map. And somebody said you can still find it online. I just seen it on a video I was watching because it was the FEMA people talking about it. It was officially from FEMA. And
Right.
you know what else? I can't figure out. There's been these weird round these weird round globe things have been shipping on trains all over, and it looks like they got 3 connections to them, like they would go to a pipe. But then you see these rectangular shaped things that look like they're rooms of some kind. They look like they might hook to them, like it was like some kind of underwater or outer atmosphere thing you'd put together where you could move around.
Right.
I don't know what the hell it is, but it's weird. It weirds me out every time I see it. And then we found one of the Air Force bases, so we know it's military rated where these things are being delivered and shipped from. But the base has no name on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we found it's in Pensacola, Florida, people. Yeah, I shouldn't say they're probably gonna get us all in trouble, but I don't know what the hell to make.
And there goes our internet.
Yeah, so they're gonna take us out. It's I just don't know I don't know what the hell they are. If I knew what it was, it'd be one thing. It's like Michelle did that show on those orb things that they use to track people. Now, them bitches are all over the South, man. They on every military base down here they got 'em. They also,
Right.
but you can't tell because they got what they call it's a low signal. It's for anything under 500 feet. We actually have radar now that can see anything coming in under 500 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, and you see these things all over along the Gulf Coast. Well, the Gulf Coast is the front line for the United States. Any coastal area is a front line for the United States.
Yeah, I saw that. I got bored one night, and
Yeah,
if another country decided to attack us, what would
yeah.
happen?
The only,
But,
unless it was Canada, Canada decided to invade like California or something.
what do you call them? There are little sisters and brothers.
Yeah, it would be a mess. Is all I can say. Canadian, they might take over like Maine or something, man. I mean, you pick on these Canadians,
Hey, Kate.
Rhode Island.
I want to get to some of the paranormal, some of the cryptids that you have down in New Orleans. Can you tell my people what kind of cryptids do they have down there in New Orleans
They got
and
Rougarou.
Mississippi?
They got Rougarou, whatever the hell Rougarou is, that everybody seems to be scared shitless of. Rougarou is supposed to be like make El Chupacabra look like a little baby or something.
Okay. Is there any possible chance that you have seen one, or what have you
No,
experienced?
I've seen weird stuff in the French Quarter late at night or early in the morning, I should say, really.
Like
And
what?
just weirdness is like, so we're standing in, so there's St. Louis Square, right? And cathedral's right there. And in between the cathedral and the quarter, the old quarter, that used to be where they would auction off slaves or hang slaves or have parties or cotillions, or where the girls would walk up and down and stuff. And it was weird because when you go through there, you obviously know there was something there prior to you. It's a real heavy, heavy feeling all around the cathedral. But from time to time, it's like you get glimpses. Like you're sitting there having a cocktail, and then you look up and you'll see like 2 women walking in those big, gowns they used to wear back, and they're just strolling along, doing their thing, talking, fanning, and just walking. Or you'll see 2 gentlemen, or if you go out to Dueling Oaks in City Park, from time to time you'll see the duels come alive. We have 2 oak trees in City Park there. One's about 370 years old, one's about 350 years old. And they're spaced out, and they loop over and touch the ground. So underneath is where people used to get ready for their duels. And then they would come out of the trees and have the duel. And it's a very interesting place to go hang out. But there's so many people died in New Orleans. There's just so much activity.
Right.
I mean, and people are always like, oh, some of them. So, and a lot of the deaths are strange and scary, but a lot of them was like from malaria plagues and shit that just rampant into the city. And then you had all kind of other kind of deaths, and then like I said, you had all the slave trading going on down there, and you just see stuff. You'll just be walking along. You might see somebody whipping a slave, or a slave walking behind a master carrying food. It's just out of it's not even like it's a ghost or anything. It's just like a glimpse of another time. It's almost like it's like the veils are touching enough that you can see back 200 years or 300 years.
So you think there's a lot of portals down there in New Orleans?
I don't know what it is, and it could just simply be ghosties. It's just right there around the cathedral is just so much activity. It's hard to say what it is.
Now during Mardi Gras, do a lot of people, a lot of visitors? I've been there one time for Mardi Gras. That was back in '84,
When
and
the drugs were good.
I didn't see nothing. I was drunk, but
Yeah, I was going to say the booze and the drunks were good in '84, man.
but but have you heard any claims from visitors during Mardi Gras that
Oh
they
man, the most famous claims is that a vampire bit me while I was down here.
thank you very much? So I wanted to talk about that next.
So, well, Aaron Rice started his crap with they like to use people to catch a buzz. So you'll be walking along and a vampire will get you whatever you're drinking or whatever drug you're on. When the vampire drinks your blood, he'll get loaded off of you, but he doesn't kill you. He just lets you go back, or she doesn't have to be a he, and they just let you go back on your way. That's reported a lot down here. I mean, a lot of people. And then, of course, there's a big vampire community down here.
Is there really?
Yeah, there is. They do. They have their own vampire ball every year when Anne Rice used to put on her Halloween, her All Hallows ball. There's a couple of really good parties down here for Halloween too. The Dungeon does an All Hallows Eve ball. It's great. And then Patos does a good one. It's just they take their Halloween serious down here, and there's a lot of activity in October, especially leading up to Halloween. There's just a lot of activity. A
Right.
lot of stuff going on. And then, the city has a lot of paranormal just stuffed into it. The old city, New Orleans is like two separate cities. There's the
Oh,
old city
really?
and the new city.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Can
the
you
French
explain that?
Quarter, yeah, the Vieux Carré and the French Quarter is the old city. It's the city that's plus 300 years. The new city is like Poydras in the business district. That's all newer city, all built in the last 50 or 60 years. Skyscrapers and shit like that. The old city is just the old city. It sits in about 20 square blocks. It's up against the river. Um, and everything out there is anciently old. It's just old.
That
You
would be
walk,
so interesting. I'm looking forward to going back there sober. But you know what? I don't think the vampires
actually, I
mind.
gotta tell you though, I have more luck with stuff like this when I have a buzz. Now, I hate to say that, and I don't want to encourage people to get one because it, I don't know why. Maybe it's because it relaxes me more. I wish.
Impossibility,
I wish. Well, I'm luckier at the casino when I got a buzz. I
right?
won a lot of money at the casino when I was loaded. I ain't won no when I was straight. That might just be because I get stupid and get looser with the wallet. That might be what that is.
Let me tell you this, brother, and this is so true. When I was in school, man, if I took a test, but straight, no drugs inside me, I'd feel it tremendously. But give me some weed, right, dude? I'd pass it with 100%. It used to confuse the teachers when I was in high school. It was like, how can you fail and get 100% on the test? So I guess it relaxes your mind and stuff
Yeah,
like
it
that.
does. It let you.
But
It
you know
let you.
what? This vampire stuff really is like huge down there, and I'd like to learn a little bit more. How could some of my viewers out there
Actually,
find?
I would just look up vampires in New Orleans, but um, if you can, see if you can make the vampire ball for Halloween.
Okay.
I still remember that. So a friend of mine, which I haven't talked to in a while, I need to write to her. Elanio Pisanio, she used to be one of the hosts on here. And she got us an interview with two of the vampires. This shit was hilarious. So this vampire was tweaking, dude.
He's a
You,
tweaker.
you, you know what I mean by tweaking. This guy was
Yeah.
tweaking. So he's like, and like he needed his fix, and so I'm a dick, whoop beep. I'm a, anyway, y'all know I can be an asshole sometimes. So I'm like, dude, I said, what are you looking for? Some blood with some crack in it or something? It's like, I just need some blood. I need some blood. I'm like, yeah, you need something. I don't think it was blood. Are you picking up my dog again? My wife's abusing my dog.
Uh-oh.
I see you abusing her, Miss Lola.
No, that's not good. That's
She's
not
Lola.
good.
Like she's an evil demon dog. She's a
Okay. And okay, so there's this
yeah. I
uh
wonder what kind of vampires we got down here. By the way, man, Raven. I'm kind of wondering
he says
myself.
they don't have vampires there in Transylvania. No.
That's because they all moved to New Orleans, man. That's why.
Now, let's see. Yeah, we got about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk. What's your now? Voodoo's really used down there. Do you?
Voodoo, hoodoo.
Yeah.
Voodoo is different in New Orleans because I mean, there's what we call deep voodoo, but then there's what we call New Orleans voodoo, or and even Haitian voodoo. A lot of times has a lot of Christianity in it.
Okay.
They'll have Jesus in it. They'll have other things, and it's really a strange, but they'll still be out there chopping their chickens' heads off, slinging around and stuff. So it's a weird mix of religions. It works for the people who it works for, and I know people who really believe in their voodoo really believe in their voodoo. They don't play around. But you see, you got all of that, and then we've got three witches cult covens down here,
Right.
three
That I
separate
do know
covens.
of. Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, and I don't even know if they even talk to each other. But the thing of it is you've got all this interactivity going on with all these different kinds of, and then we've got a big necromancer group down here, and
Oh.
yeah, so
Well, you know
necromancers
what?
are weird.
Speaking of necromancy, we had a guest on our show a while back, and he says that paranormal investigators who hunt ghosties are necromancers
Yeah,
because we
well,
talk to the
man,
dead. I was
maybe
like,
they are. Well,
I'm not.
I am not the see. I get more. So it seems like Michelle's still mad at me over this. It's I am not the person talking about ghosts because I feel like for the most part ghosts are dimensional bleed through. So people always get mad at me. They're like, Joe, they're not dimensional bleed through. I said, why can't they be dimensional bleed through? They're like, no, no, no. I'm like, all right, whatever y'all want to believe is fine by me. I just personally think, and the only reason I even thought that is, and I don't believe all ghosts are that, by the way, but I do believe a lot of them are because over the years, people will tell me about a dead relative or a dead friend, and the dead friend or relative will come speak to them, right? Not a, I mean, it's a fairly common thing I've heard over the years, but there's always a catch-22 to it. You know, it's weird. My dad had blonde hair, or my mom was saying this, or anyway, there's always something off, and it got me to thinking. So you're under stress, and it's easy to break the veil if you're under stress. So
Right.
I mean, you're really pushing. I mean, you just lost someone you really care about, and your emotions are way high. So you might cross the veil, and if you do, that person standing over your bed or standing in front of you talking to you might actually be that person just in the nearest dimension next to you, and that might be why there's that little subtle difference because you're actually talking to the live version of your dad or your mother just in a different dimension. Because
Right.
remember, it doesn't mean your dad just because they died in this dimension on this date doesn't mean they're going to do that in the other dimensions.
Right.
Remember, each dimension is slightly different. So, I should have never ever said I was on. I don't know. I was on Coast to Coast at Discovery. I was on some big freaking thing somewhere, and I said it. Man, every ghost hunter for 1,000 miles wrote to me, Joe, you're making my life hard, man. I'm like, oh, I even had what's his name? Was it Jason and the other guy from Taps wrote to me about it.
Oh, Jason Hall.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
they were like, well, I guess yeah, for some of it could be true, but shh, stop saying that. You're gonna turn too many people. I'm like, no, no, no. And I wasn't trying to even turn anybody. I just, I'm always looking for other answers for anything, alternative
Right.
answers
I
for
like
everything.
looking for answers now. In fact, for me, ever since I started radio, um, I like researching stuff. It's really, really cool. But a little bit off this now. We got about some couple minutes left
Yeah,
here,
yeah, Lowell, I
dude.
got a half hour.
All right. So why don't you tell our guests a little bit more of the stuff that you do that does not have to deal with ufologists? If you want to, different shows that you have on
Oh my
UPRN.
God, this could take weeks. I don't know if
You
we have
got
enough.
that far.
Hey,
26 minutes.
wait, hold on. I'm sending somebody a picture or something.
What the hell are you doing?
It's sending somebody a picture of something. And why are we talking? So, hey, it's live radio. Well, right now, by the way, guys, this show, Chasing Prophecy, along with UFO on the cover, Writers of the Future, The Outer Realm, and the Centralists are all waiting to find out if we won an award.
Yeah.
Yes. So I haven't even seen them. Usually they write to you by now and tell you to make your video in case you won the award. You know. Yeah. Last year and the year before they made everybody do a video in case you won the award. You know, I guess. Good evening, and Sean Kelly won. So then they got it right there. They can put it on the screen and let it go. And people, if you didn't vote, shame on you. Can't vote now. It ended midnight on
Friday.
7:31. That was it. It was the last of the voting. So I'm hoping somebody won on the network. That'll be 2 years in a row. I'll be bitching nonstop all year. Nonstop. I'll be like, you ass, why did we
Oh,
win?
okay. Hold on a second. I got another question here. What do you think about, what is it, Henry Canado flying machine, it looks like, on OZN, whatever that is?
Why does that sound familiar? I don't know. It sounds familiar. So,
Can you elaborate on that a little bit more, Banta?
yeah, stick some more information in there.
Yeah, but
Actually, Jeannie had asked me about the science. I do a show called Science and Beyond. Right now, it's on Mondays. It's runs parallel with another show on the network. We do it about once a month. It's just science. It's geek out stuff. Yeah, it's nerdy, geeky, you name it. Centralist I do on Friday. We rotate hosts. Mike Langley's been with me. I think Jay Renard. Not Jay Renard. Anyway, Jay will be back with us this week. We are still looking for a female host for that show. And it's a show, it's kind of middle of the road, so that's why it's called The Centralist. So we're really looking for somebody who, is in the middle. Not really left or right, just in the middle. So we're looking for a female that can fill in that area and see what's in the. Anyway, just, if you're interested, write to me at iCarCox.net.
okay. Did you see that down there, Henry?
Yeah. I don't know. It's not, for some reason. I'm trying to think. Oh, I'll have to look it up. For some reason, it's not ringing a bell.
You know what?
Which is
We'll
weird.
do that, Banta, and come back next week, and we'll give you the answer on that.
They so what's this? I hear you've been abusing Jenny, man. Have you been abusing?
I have not abusing Jenny at all.
You've been abusing
Not at
that
all.
blonde-headed woman. I know
I
the
miss
truth.
her. It's been like 3 weeks. I miss her.
Yeah, it's hard when you lose and people stuff goes on around.
Yeah,
It's just tough.
Changes and stuff, but
It's,
you know what? She'll be back. And she'll be back with not a vengeance, but she'll be back 100% full force.
Yes, I'll have to
It'd be
introduce
nice.
her to Frankie.
Really nice to have her
Now,
back on.
remember, people, if you want to get involved in this conference stuff we're getting ready to start working on, which I mentioned earlier in the show, you can write to me at iCarCox.net. We're looking for speakers, all mostly from the east or the southeast, the deep south of the southeast, stuff like that. Really from like Texas on over to Jacksonville, Florida, maybe up. Well, because nobody's getting paid, not at least in the beginning. So,
Right.
So we're going to bring people in. Well, we're going to bring a lot of different people in. Well, there's a lot of paranormal groups all across the South. There's paranormal groups up in the East Coast, which, for some of my friends, I know one of my friends from New Jersey said he wants to come down, which is about 18, or I think it's a 20-hour drive for them.
Yeah.
They
fly,
come
dude.
there. Yeah,
I'd fly down now. That have you pick me up.
Well, right now flights are pretty cheap. Even with the gas as high as it is, it's pretty cheap to fly right now.
Still, when I go down there for a conference, I'm going to fly, and you're going to pick me up.
Oh yeah, we'll pick you up. Yeah, we'll pick you up. Well, I'll send one of the demons to pick you up. One of the other. I'll be sure to put him on the Ghost Bus. There we go. The Ghost Bus. And then, of course, I host UFO Undercover, which is now 23 years old. It's been around for a little while, and it's interviewed anybody who's everybody that's anybody in a damn field. It interviewed so many damn people, I had to retire for a couple of months just to give myself a break.
Yeah, I remember that when you did retire, there was a lot of people screaming at you for you to get back.
Oh, yeah.
So what's coming up with UPRN?
That you can't ask me. You got to ask the boss lady about that. That's her job.
Oh, okay.
That is the lovely Michelle DeRoche's headache.
She's sweet. She's really sweet.
She's the boss.
I will have to say this, and I'm not here kissing your butt either, or Michelle's butt. I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we've been on here for close to 3 years, and my God, they're the nicest people in the world here. I mean, not just Joe and Michelle. I'm talking all the hosts and all their
I'm
shows.
thinking, obviously, he has not talked to Michelle for long periods of time. Oh my God.
all
I didn't hire her because she was nice, man.
you gotta do is give her a nice little cute smile emoji, and she melts in
no,
your
she's hard
arms.
working. She's always into something. She's always got something going on. I mean, excuse me. Every time I talk to her, she's in the middle of something, doing something. She does a lot for the station. She does a lot for our shows, and she does a lot just for other people as well. She's just busy all the time. Plus, her and the famous Amelia are always out doing stuff and doing clearings and running people off and stuff. And
Yeah,
if y'all
and
know who I was talking about,
and
people, I was talking about Amelia Pisano. She's the co-host on the Honor Room.
yes, and you know what? Maybe one day you can get her to cook us all pizza, and
Shit,
when we have
Mike's hoping. That's what Mike's hoping for, some pizza. I was like,
but no,
it's a strange thing. What do you mean Scientologists are extraterrestrial? I don't think so. I know a few times Scientologists. I don't
no,
think
that's a
they're
good
extra.
question, Joe, because I thought about that. Are they? Could they
Uh,
be aliens?
they're not aliens. They might have somebody in the upper echelon may have some involvement with them, but they're not. I've actually over the years, I met some Scientologists a while back. Nice people. Recently, I met a bunch of them when I was out in LA. They're all just nice people. What's interesting about them? They're attractive and intelligent. They all of them are hardworking. Everyone I met them is hardworking. So
No,
I,
yeah.
I haven't seen anything that makes me think they're a cult or anything else. But I mean, I'm not deep into it or anything like that either. I just done some research on them, and after I met a few of them, and like I said, I don't have anything bad to say about them.
Hmm.
Well, I remember when I started doing stuff with John for L. Ron Hubbard and Writers of the Future. I got a few nasty emails about, oh, you're going to work with them Scientologists. Well, Writers of the Future isn't Scientology, it's Writers of the Future. L. Ron just set up a bunch of money so that people who, writers and illustrators could have a place to win and get their career going. And that's exactly what it is. I've been there 2 years now and I've met 3 years worth of winners. And that's exactly what it is. It's blind judge. They do everything the way they say they're going to do it. And they're producing a lot of really good people in the field for people like me who are dying for some good sci-fi. So,
Hmm.
but no, the people I was there's no Scientology involved in it at all.
Oh,
Um, there are members that work there, but they're none of them. They're not preaching it. They're not telling you got to be part of it. They're not. They don't even bring it up. So I was quite impressed by that because you hear about stuff on TV, which we should
well,
all better know better than believe anything that's on television. But still,
I was just going to ask you that question too, Ma. You must be reading my mind.
mm.
See, you're doing alien mental work on my ass because I was going to ask you that
Ooh.
question. But no, if there was one show out there, what show would you recommend our viewers for? This is on TV now on cable. That you would. It usually has a good deal about good information on
Oh
UFOs.
shit! I don't know. That's
I
tough. I
know.
don't watch TV anymore. It's tough, man. Yeah, I don't. I don't know.
How
Now I'm gonna have
much
to
of
go
that? How
watch some
much of those
TV.
shows should someone actually believe in?
Not much.
Not much.
Yeah. Okay. First off, it's a tough thing because there are a lot of people out there trying to do good stuff, but people try to base their information on like one or two or three cases. You can't do that. This is a big thing with a lot of people involved. So if you try to base it on three cases, you're only going to come up with it wrong. Especially if it's these people that are self-evolved or self-interest, which are probably, excuse me, not even real contactees. Most real contactees do not. How can I say this? They want to be seen because if they're part of the program, they want people to know what's going on, but they don't want to make it about themselves. It's just not who they are.
Okay.
They want to make it about whoever else is involved or whoever they're involved with, like their children or the other children or people that they're working with because they're keepers or because they're communicators or things like that, where they actually have a cooperation with the aliens. And then, of course, the aliens don't really. While I'm thinking about this, the aliens really don't like uh, government screwing with their contactees. They have been known to punish people for taking their contactees. There are a couple of big rumors back in the early 70s and even part of the early 80s where they came in and killed quite a few of the government people for taking their contactees.
Really?
Oh, yeah, they don't tolerate it because, whatever gifts they have, they don't want the government having their fingers on. especially if it's against your will. So, in other words, if you knew you were a contactee and you knew you were empathic or telepathic, and the government offered you a job, okay, that would be fine. But if they came in and took you and said, this is what you were going to do, oh, hell no. They do
Right.
not put up with that, because unless you're not part of the program anymore. And what I mean by that is, so they take you pre-birth, and then they take you after birth, and then they take you during puberty and through your 20s, and then contact changes in your 30s. Well, for a lot of people after 40, contact stops. If you're not part of any of the programs, then there's no reason for them to keep abducting you. But they will take your children, your grandchildren, your grandchildren, great grandchildren, so on and so forth. But they won't take you anymore because there's no reason for it. But that's not for all people who are getting older. Some people who are keepers or communicators, things like that are working with the aliens, that will be taking them till death, and even after death. Yes, people, they can take you after death. Ain't that a bitch?
Yeah.
Uh,
Hey, real quick, bud. Christy Bailey has a question. Um, are you referring to programs like Skinwalker Ranch? And do you think the show is legit?
man, y'all gonna get me in trouble. So I spent 3 weeks out there. Okay, now this is a long time ago. We're talking. It was after I got out the service, but before I met my wife. So we're talking, Jesus, 36, 38 years ago. Anyway, we found quite a lot of things out there, but we didn't find any aliens and we didn't find any skinwalkers. So when the report was originally given to Bigelow, which was it was a while after that, he sold it. He sold it to the people who have it now. And I found that interesting because remember, he bought it from the government. So if the government had a ranch that had aliens on it, why would they sell it to Bigelow?
What's Bigelow? I'm not familiar with
Bigelow
it.
owns Bigelow Aerospace. He's a big aerospace engineer. He's like Elon Musk and Jeff
Okay.
Bezos and the boys. He's just another billionaire out there, but he believes in aliens. He's the guy who gave MUFON all that money to go find him alien technology and aliens, and MUFON just spinning on other crap. Now, I will tell you this, Christy. Skinwalker Ranch is fun to watch. It's fun to watch. How much of it is legit? I would take every part of that show with a grain of salt. I'm just, as a fair warning, because, I know a lot about the place. So um, we did know for a fact that there is downwind contamination from upstream. There was bombs that about 10 miles up from Skinwalker Ranch. There were nuclear bombs that were detonated. So there is contamination on the ranch. There are
Okay.
secret rooms on the ranch. There's a few things on the ranch that are interesting, but really, no one's found any aliens and no one's got any pictures of Skinwalker. Matter of fact, it's all stories. I couldn't even find anybody who actually seen anything. So yeah, I don't want to, downplay it, but I mean, the fact that the government sold it to Bigelow and then Bigelow sold it to this guy suggests that it's nothing's going on anymore.
But you're making a ton of money on TV on it.
Yeah, well, that's a cool place.
Oh, hold on. Tommy Miller got a
Uh,
question or a
well,
comment.
you know what, Tommy? We all have a reptilian section in our brain, so we're all reptilians, my friend. Every human on Earth has a reptilian section in your brain. Yes, we most certainly do. So,
What was that one? I think we did a show a long time
Zeke,
ago.
Kyle, Lizzie.
So, um, something about the royal family. I mean, I remember I was nervous talking about it because I thought the SAS
Well,
was going
because
to come in and arrest me.
some people think they're reptilian, some people think they're werewolves, and some people think they're vampires. And there's a lot of weird evidence about there might be some kind of werewolfy shit going on. They got that hemophiliac disease, the vampire disease, the wolf disease, and then they like to spend a lot of time in the woods privately alone and shit. So you just
Right.
never know. Uh, Look, if Aunt Liz is a reppy, we all in trouble. Well, she'll be
Uh,
retiring soon, so it won't matter.
yeah, absolutely.
Charles is a wimp, so we ain't gonna have to
And
worry about it.
then, and then, then the men take over. You know what I mean? But
Yes, well,
nothing
hopefully
against that.
this,
No, I'm not no chauvinist at all.
hopefully the grandson will take over and not the papa. But it looks like Pop's gonna take over. He's probably an
Yeah.
alien. He looks like an alien. He looks like one of them grays with an overlay on it. Yeah,
No,
like
no comment.
stretching around
No
and
comment
shit.
on that. I have many situations. But I
But,
tell you what, I was stationed in Scotland when I was in the Navy, and I'm telling you what, they must have all that vampire disease, boy, because their skin is so white.
Oh yeah,
It
that
got
is.
hot one day out of the year in Scotland. One day, and it only went up to 74, right? And they all stayed in their houses because they couldn't be out in the sun.
Yeah, that
Uh,
white forest again.
oh, very much so. Is there any last words there, Mister Montaldo?
Oh, I don't know. I think we should all apply to Elon Musk and move to Mars and start on. You know what? That's a question. Here's a question I pose to everyone out there: will Mars be haunted? It
The
does look
what?
like there was. Will Mars be a haunted planet? Will there be ghosts on Mars?
Oh,
So we know now that there was lots of water on Mars 50 million years ago. So that means there was life on Mars. Now we don't know if there was intelligent life, but we're almost. I've been saying this for 40 years. There was life on Mars and still water on there, which got me in trouble. But now it's true. We know there is water on Mars, and it's even a chance we may find life, still some life on Mars today. So the real question is: was there a life on Mars? Intelligent life, and would they have
thank you,
left ghosts
Christy.
behind?
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you,
Christy
Christy.
said, "Thanks, gentlemen. Love the
Thank you,
show."
Christy. It's
That would be crazy if Mars was like haunted and
and
stuff.
what
I
happens
mean,
when we start finding other worlds? Are there going to be ghosties on these other worlds?
how do you know there's not like, you know, life on Uranus and Venus and Jupiter? You know what I mean? Come on, they got to
It,
come from somewhere.
well, I mean, the universe is a big place. The galaxy is a big place. I mean, we've upgraded a galaxy to 160,000 light years, which puts it at probably between 200 and 400 billion stars, which puts the amount of planets in it well over a trillion, which puts the potential amount of life planets in there either from 10 million to 100 million. So there's a lot of life out there. We just ain't found it yet. Mainly because I don't think it wants to talk to us other than wants to visit and here. The rest of it's like, see, stupid humans, we want to talk to you. You put yourself in tin cans and go into space. We do not want to talk to you people. Uh, how many
Hey
satellites we got
Joe,
in space?
I want to thank you for being on the show tonight. You really did us. It was nice. Thank you. I
No,
enjoyed
no, I
this.
always have fun.
I enjoyed this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's getting close to the end. Please stay tuned for my show. It comes on next after this into the night. And tonight we're just going to talk about anything and everything. And I hope you can join me on my show. And with that, happy hunting.
Dun,
Goodbye.
dun, 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 dun.
Gotta love Joe. We're
You don't like my outro music? Come on, people. That was some damn spanky outro music. Anyway.